Nigeria plans to develop a comprehensive strategy as it seeks to tap into opportunities in halal export. Meanwhile, the country's total merchandise trade declined by 3.76% in the second quarter of this year to 31.89 trillion naira. Bamidele Ayemibo, CEO of 3T Impex Consulting, joins me to discuss these stories. Bamidele, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, good day, and how are you?
Very well, thank you. Let's get right to it. The federal government of Nigeria is seeking to further diversify the economy by taking advantage of halal exports. And according to the federal government, Nigeria is the 8th largest domestic halal economy globally. So I guess it only makes sense to further tap into this market. But what do you make of this plan in the first place?
You know, Nigeria is a very interesting place. Very interesting because we're not even the one that does not have higher level of the one that is at the base level of certification with little or no requirement. We're not doing so well in it. Now we are trying to aspire to now go a step higher, where we now need a last certification to be able to tap into those markets. A good initiative, only that we should run, we should crawl before walking and walk before running. That's my take on it. But I think we should just take the whole non-export sector very seriously and do something to be able to grow the volume. Either we are going to take advantage of the halal or not, it really does not matter in my opinion, because the one that have lesser requirement now certification, we're not doing so much in it already.
Right, so I suppose we'll speak hypothetically here now. Let's say while putting this document or whatever it is together, the government is able to meet the stringent or more stringent rules for halal export. I mean, the numbers that we're seeing, according to the federal government, is between now and 2027. So obviously they're going ahead with it, where we could see Nigeria could gain like 1.5 billion US dollars. But let's say we're able to achieve this, or tap into that market. For you, how big is that big for the economy? If we're talking about 1.5 billion US dollars, and can we do it across several sectors? Because here I see food, beverage, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, garments, banking, etc. So it's a wide spectrum of sectors that we could actually tap into.
Yes, of course we can. I mean, I have no doubt in our capability to be able to take advantage. And indeed, there is opportunity there. I mean, we have about 1.8 million what's the population of Muslims globally, and the population is growing and increasing, and the countries are pretty much, particularly in the Middle East, demand for this kind of product, and they have the purchasing power to be able to buy. So, like I said, it's not something we should not aspire to do, but it shouldn't be that we are focusing on that. We should just do it holistically, because if we are solving the general problem within the space, we will also be preparing ourselves for the halal market.
All right, and for the broader, exports market, obviously, you did mention issues about Nigeria, and we continue to have that problem because from time to time we do see that in the news. Nigeria, some of Nigeria's, especially agricultural products, are not being accepted at some borders. Talk to us. What are the challenges, and how are we addressing them? What are you seeing?
Majorly, the issue of export readiness, and secondly, enforcement. Enforcement is being taken care of by NAFDAC. NAFDAC is stepping up. I've attended like 4 stakeholder engagement with NAFDAC in the last 3 to 4 months, including the DG president ourselves, and answering a lot of questions. So we see that being done. Enforcement and continuity of that enforcement become very important, and they are going into other spaces they have not been doing so much in, even though it's part of their mandate, which involve commodity. Because when you hear about rejection and quality issue, most of the time it has to do with the raw commodity. So now that is being solved. The one we are not doing a lot to solve in order to grow the export volume is the issue of export readiness, such that at the end of the day we can grow the number of exporters in the country. Currently, according to Nigeria Promotion Council, Nigerian total exporter is not even up to 1,500 businesses. So if we want to grow the volume, we also need to grow the number of businesses that are doing it, in addition to and that will eventually multiply the volume we will be able to grow within the sector.
So, I mean, looking across the sectors, where are we underrepresented in terms of where do you think we can do better in terms of exporting more? I know that there's a lot, I mean, on the agriculture's list, I mean, it's a pretty decent list if you look at the number of agricultural exports that we have now. Where else do you see value that we ought to be exporting now?
Oh, of course, our low hanging fruit have always been agric. It has always been agric. What we've not done is to be able to take a full advantage of agric. You know, if you look at the agric space, you have the primary product, you have intermediary product, and the finished product. The primary product, intermediate product demand is not so much because they are more like about less than 40%, 30 to 40% of the global demand of, I mean, talking about goods generally, trading goods. More than half of the demand is in the intermediary space. So by intermediary now, I mean from cocoa to cocoa butter, from shea nut to shea butter, from lead to lead ingot. All those intermediary products are the one we need to begin to focus on, meaning we need to support a lot of value addition and manufacturing. That means we need to support all the input or requirement to be able to grow our productive capacity, which in the manufacturer I've always spoken about, is what we must do something about. In addition to that, is the same thing I mentioned earlier, which is so because if we're going to be able to grow this sector, or we're going to be now begin to do a lot about this sector, we need to also get a lot of people coming in to be able to do a lot of shipment within those sectors. And all this will be driven by policies. What I've not seen is a deliberate policy on the part of the government to be able to grow non-oil export. That's why I had issue with that halal issue, because I feel this is not just halal. Halal is an opportunity for take advantage of, but even the general non-oil export is a lot of opportunity we are leaving on the table that we're not be taking advantage of. From AGUA to even the AFCFTA right now, there will not be so much in because it seems not to be a priority. You know, for countries that grow their non-oil that grow export in general, you see the fact that export is a priority for the government. And I mean government in the central. I mean, in the case of Nigeria, the presidency taking export very seriously, meaning in every speech of the president, as the economy is concerned, this should be an area that I feel a lot is being done about other area, but we are not doing a lot in this area, even though it's a major foreign exchange earner that will help us even show up the value of Naira in the country.
Right. You mentioned the AFCTA, Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Obviously, that is still ongoing and quite disheartening to hear that we're not seeing the traction, at least on the Nigeria side, what we're exporting to our neighbors or across the African continent. I mean, obviously, at one point it was an issue of rules of origin. I believe that was to some extent taken care of course, the issue of course, the movement at the borders, etc. But for you, specifically for Nigeria, what is that one big issue, and do you see us addressing it at this time?
Yeah, I'm making some progress now, although a bit late, but better late than ever in AFCFTA right now, because the guided trade initiative has been launched in Nigeria, and a number of companies have been earmarked to be able to do shipment, and I guess some of them are maybe able to do the shipment right now, just to be able to test, to be able to be sure that we are really taking advantage of AFCFTA. So I feel maybe because of the change of government or even change of leadership of the coordinating office of AFCFTA in Nigeria might have affected their effort, but I know also for a fact that even that particular agency or coordinating office is not also getting the kind of patronage that is required even from the government.
Right. I wanted to quickly take your attention to the Q2 second quarter Nigeria's trade merchandise data. Just wanted you to quickly comment on that. According to the data, total merchandise trade fell 3.7% to 31.89 trillion. I know you've gone through this data. Talk to us about what you see there, what story this data is telling, and what, if you have any recommendations for the authorities concerned.
The expectation, as usual, still remain the same. There are some good news, and of course, there are some bad news. The expectation, like crude oil, the major foreign exchange earner, that is still old sway. The fact that majority, I mean, non-oil exports in this particular one declined from about 10% in Q1 to about 9.2% in Q2. China is still a major force to reckon with a lot of import coming from China, which shows, of course, the concentration rate that we talked about in the past. PMS is still taking up about 26%, 26% of fell from 26% to 21% of the import volume, and about 84% still from Asia. But the good news is the fact that we are seeing an increase, rather, year-on-year increase in the export volume. Year-on-year increase in the export volume. And what are they contributing to it? The fact that we have increased solid minerals, manufactured goods, and agri. Interestingly, all of them, particularly solid mineral and manufactured goods, and agri is about 247%. So we see some increase. What I can say about this increase is maybe because of the regular trend that we expect at this time of the year, or because of the effort being made by the government. Because I can't really see much about the effort being made by the government, but maybe because of the regular trend in the year. But the bad news still remains the fact that PMS, gas, oil, wheat, and butane and sugarcane are major foreign exchange consumer for Nigeria. And what makes it bad news for me is the fact that these are what we can produce locally. And we will be able to, if we do that and take that seriously, we're able to reduce the consumption of FS being taken off by this particular product within Nigeria.
Bamidele, I must thank you for your time. Thank you so much for talking to us today. We appreciate your perspective on this. Bamidele Ayemibo, CEO of 3T Impacts Consulting.